Super Sports America. Capturing the power, color, and action of uniquely American sports and the skill and courage of the competitors. Super Sports America.
Speed completely. Motorsports. Sleek and graceful look of the Indy cars. The boxier styled winged sprint cars turning up dirt. Stock cars driven by good old boys. The sheer speed and raw power of the top fuel dragsters. Yes, motorsports has many varied facets, all attempting to find that perfect blend of speed, power, engineering, and competitive spirit, pushing man and machine to the ultimate limit. And today, I believe we have found the perfect mix, that combination of ingredients that achieves the ultimate in motorsports' varied endeavors. That's right, folks. It's time for our annual pilgrimage to the world center of goop, home of the mechanical swamp monster, Naples, Florida. Hi, I'm Ed Bruce. And today, my buddies Brock Yates and Steve Evans have rolled up their pants legs, and they're getting ready for some of the wildest, wettest racing you'll ever see. So slip on some waders, sit back and relax, because there ain't nothing like the swamps.
Ed, I can't believe it. I've looked everywhere. Evans, nowhere in sight. Let's hope we're not in for a repeat of last year. Remember what happened? You arrived here, tried to borrow one of the swamp buggies, got apprehended by the city police, hauled off to the city judge, and finally showed up here in the hands of the county sheriff. He avoided what may have been a lengthy jail term by simply being heaved into the sippy hole as punishment. I just hope we're not going to do that. Well, where you been?
You know, I've paid my debt to society for a crime I didn't even commit.
That's not what the judge said.
Well, let's forget that, because actually you and the cowboy did me a favor when you heaved me in. I got a taste for this thing. I mean, it may not be Perrier, but it's an exciting piece of water, and I am going to drive a swamp buggy today and add that to my long list of motorsports accomplishments.
You're going to drive one of these buggies? Where are you going to get a ride?
Hey, these guys know us. They know what we do, how good we are at it. There'll be no problem. Our reputation precedes us. I think they'll be honored.
Evans, I've seen you drive cars on dry land. I can't even imagine you trying to handle a course like this.
It is a tough course, Brock. The placid surface of this murky water disguised as a very unpredictable bottom. There's rocks and mud and probably a few old beer cans down there. It ranges in depth from about 2 feet to the sippy hole, the most famous part of the course. And this is Terry Langford, who won here the last time we visited Naples, and no one got through that sippy hole better than he did. It's called the sippy hole because a guy named Morris from Mississippi never once made it through it. The mile mud, Brock, we're back.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, Steve, I got to wonder whether you're going to bring a scuba gear or a crash helmet to run in this thing, because you may need both. They run them twice a year at the Collier County Fairgrounds. Nothing like it on the face of the earth.
Well, and they've sold it out again, Brock, and the madness is about to happen. A little later on, we'll be seeing those high-powered buggies like Terry Langford, but first, it's the 4x4 in tandem, 6-cylinder and 8-cylinder motors.
Well, that's a nice thing about the swamps. You can run just about anything, as you can see, if it'll half float, half drive through the mud. Here comes a big hitter in this league, David Sims. He's won here a couple of times overall in Shag-Nasty. That's a four-wheel drive vehicle, Steve, and one of the best ones in the place.
Well, the rules said four-wheel drive, but they didn't say anything about not building a 500 cubic inch aluminum Chevrolet motor. A lot of equality, as you can see, in these classes.
You can try anything you want. These guys, old Steve Montgomery and he's got himself a little 4-cylinder motor in there, and not much in terms of sheer power to go against Shag-Nasty. I don't know about that pickup in the middle. We never seen him before.
Brock, apparently there are no restrictions on body styles in the classes.
Well, I'm not really sure, Ed. Of course, Steve Evans, he's the only man to have grand buggy theft as a charge. He knows all about them. How about those body styles, Steve?
Oh, the rule is in boldface type. Body required. That's all it says.
That's it.
Here's the starter, Aubrey Rogers, a fellow I met a year ago. He's meaner than Buford Pusser, but he's a good starter, and they don't jump the green flag on Sheriff Aubrey. But Shag Nasty, David Sims, if he can hold together here, Brock, he's just going to outclass these other two buggies. And they'll go through this hippie hole 3 times. That was the first time for Shag Nasty. Now you get an idea how really deep it is. Up scope.
Oh, sure enough. Well, look at the Shag Nasty come out of that deep stuff. And, of course, the other two vehicles, they're in a little bit different class. They're not supposed to be able to compete against Shag Nasty in outright speed. So it's just up to David Sims to stay together. And I'm not sure, you know, had all kinds of weird stuff happen in these events.
All right, is there a big difference in power, or is it strictly the shape of the design of his body that gives him the advantage in this race?
He's got everything. He's got 4-wheel drive like the other vehicles, but he's got a big, strong V8 engine in that thing, Ed.
Oh, that's a full race, very expensive racing engine for Shag Nasty. The other guys out here just trying to have a good time. The challenge of getting around the mile of mud is its own reward. But David Sims carrying a passenger along, too, Brock.
Right, Steve. In fact, that's Ed Denow, who just showed up along with Sims and is taking a ride.
And a wet ride it is. Now, coming through the hippie hole for the second time is the truck called And Back Again, Robert Studoff, and he's going to go deep. How low can he go? He's got to keep the RPMs up, guys, because otherwise that motor is level. It gets some moisture in it and die.
You see, he's got his windshield wipers on. Of course, Sims doesn't have any windshield wipers. No windshield on that thing even as he runs around through a second lap, and here's it. And it is not exactly going to break the lap record here, I don't think, Bruce.
Steve, you mentioned money a while ago. Is there a limitation on the amount of money that could be spent on each vehicle?
No, apparently not. Very valuable racing engines, as I pointed out earlier. So you've got buggies worth anywhere from $100 to $20,000.
And here comes one of the $20,000 ones for sure. So look at Sims go through that sippy hole, and he comes across clear-cut winner in this heat, and he's going to head on, and hopefully, at least as far as he's concerned, a repeat is he's won this thing twice in a row. And here comes Studoff. Windshield wipers are still working anyway.
Steve, obviously Shag Nasty has won the race and is probably back in the pits by now. These guys are still out there trying so hard. They blow an engine. Why?
Well, Ed, there's an awful lot of financial pressure on these drivers because if you don't finish the mile of mud and take that checkered flag, you don't get your entry fee back, and that is $10.
That much, huh?
Yeah.
That'll pay for at least a wash job down at the old car wash, and these things get pretty much.
A set of plugs.
Man, they don't have the expense of a fancy driving uniform or a fire suit, bathing suit, a pair of thongs is appropriate attire for any swamp buggy driver. That's the first time we've seen an enclosed truck with a cab like this, so Ed went back in the pit area to have a close-up look at it.
If you didn't know we were in Naples, Florida, at the Swamp Buggy races, you might think we were at a truck dealership working on a truck here. I'm standing here with Robert Studoff, and Robert, I've got a pickup truck. It don't look quite like this one. This is something new for Swamp Buggy racing, isn't it?
Yeah, we just put a set of tractor tires on it and brought it down here and see what it'd do one time.
What's the advantage? What's the thought behind using a truck?
Well, boys that run down here, Joey Kulick and all, they just said that a four-wheel drive truck ain't never made it, so he said put tires on it and try it one time, and we did.
Do you stay any drier in it?
No, you still get wet. There's about a foot of water in the bottom of the floorboard.
Notice you got a tape deck and stereo in there.
Oh, yeah, we got to listen to the sounds while we're going down the track.
When you do listen to it around the track then?
Oh, yeah.
Slip a Beach Boys tape in there, a little bit of heaven.
And here's Steve Montgomery. He's got a little problem. I think that's the bilge pump working there, Steve.
Well, Shag Nasty has already won it, and the truck is across the finish line, but it is just stuck. Go see Cal. They've been drug out of the sippy hole, and it's time for some more mud-mashing action, Brock Yates.
Showdown, Steve, and they're going to like this. This is Roger McCandless and the Rat On, and this is this V8 and 6-cylinder 2-wheel drive class, and this is the heavy iron. Not so heavy that it's going to sink, but it really gets around this circuit. As a matter of fact, Roger McCandless barely made this event. He had some real problems early in the going in the practice session.
Yeah, he was out of the back part of the course just seeing how the buggy would handle when suddenly one of those fragile front wheels let go. The left front wheel just sheared off. McCandless, for a moment, was just going to throw in the towel and wait till next year, but a lot of the guys gathered around. Somebody came up with a fresh pair of front wheels, bolted them on, and he really doesn't know right now if this spare set of wheels are going to hold up. You know, we poke a little fun at some of these buggies, good-naturedly, but these are first-class racing machines, well-built, very, very expensive, and a lot of horsepower.
Sure is. Some of the guys are claiming 1,000 horsepower out of these big horses, and when you see him run, you'll believe it. As the sheriff gets ready to drop the green flag, and McCandless jumps out into the lead. You know, he's got to push through water and some old mud surface, and it does take a ton of horsepower just to get these things around here. Ed Bruce, it's hard to believe how well they do run in this kind of conditions.
Brock, it seems that the start is very important. Is there any kind of turbulence that you know of? If you don't get off the line first and you're running in second place, obviously it's hard to see, but does the wake of the boat in front of you make any difference?
I'm not really sure. I think it's just a question of trying to get past the guy he's out front, and he just takes up all the track. And look at McCandless fight that wheel as he goes through that sippy hole.
There seems to be a lot of torque there. A fella could get his arm broken. Steve, do you really think you can drive one of these?
I know I can drive one, Ed. It's holding my breath. If I get into this position, I'm worried about.
He was practicing trying to put his rent-a-car in the swimming pool in the motel last night, but I don't think that's going to help at all.
Well, I remember when those motel owners had a sense of humor about that sort of thing.
Well, I'll tell you, they wouldn't laugh a whole lot if McCandless came flying through their pool, because he is standing on it, and Larry Andrews right behind him isn't out of this race either. This is a good, serious Swamp Buggy race. Ed?
Now, Brock, we're looking at the big V6 and V8 engines. How fast, when they come out of those turns, do they really get going down these straightaways?
Well, from what we understand, Ed, the veterans say about 70+ miles an hour as McCandless comes across the line to win that. And look, we've got Larry Andrews back there. He's got a wheel missing. The old left rear wheel gave up on him, so Larry's, he never would have won it anyway. He wouldn't have gotten across the line. Well, let's have another look at that. Here comes McCandless, and boy, he is just flying down there. It looks like an unlimited hydroplane. We've said that before, but you can't get past that impression.
You know, we talked about the fighting that wheel. Look at the torque there. That's a lot more work than it looks like when you see it in slow motion, isn't it?
Well, we've seen some guys dump these things and hit the wall and run up on the beach as they try to finish this thing. So, as you say, Ed, it's not easy. And, boy, Larry Andrews would sure agree with you, because there's his left rear wheel as he pushes that on the beach. So he's got some problems. And in the meantime, let's go to Steve in the pits.
Well, the weirdness marches on here in the pit area at the Swamp Buggy races. You really just never know what you're going to find, such as this convertible here. Well, not a convertible in the usual sense. It's actually motorcycle powered, which is also not unusual. But in this case, Half Fast 4 has got an entire 360 Yamaha motorcycle bolted in it. The frame, the tank, the engine, the whole shebang. I mean, you put some wheels, a handlebar, and a seat on it, and you got something to do between Swamp Buggy races. Resourceful people, these Swamp Buggy racers.
And colorful, too, Brock. The names are as colorful as the characters driving them.
Sure are, Ed, and you're going to see some colorful ones out here. This is Roy Grimes in Pac-Man, and Jay Rowe in Scrappy, one of the real veterans in this particular class, the four-cylinder, four-wheel drive and tandem class, Steve.
He was here for the first race back in 1952, but I don't think he had a motorized surfboard then.
I wonder if he was still driving in his bare feet back in those days. That's a trademark of old Jay Rose and John Anderson in Half Fast 3. And there's a story behind Half Fast 3.
Yes, it is one of the team cars from the Beasley stable, the Swamp Buggy's answer to Colin Chapman and Lotus. There's Half Fast 5, all of them kind of having that surfboard look to them. And there's Half Fast 4. They're big on Roman numerals here in the Beasley stable. And moving along, we take a look also at Half Fast 2. And they're all out here today. Lester Beasley, the prime mover behind Swamp Buggy racing for many years down here, but still looking to be king of the swamp. He's never quite won the big title. Lester is here and wrenching all of them himself.
Well, he's going to try to use the human wave campaign here. He's just going to use a lot of numbers, but he's got his hands full, old Lester, and his driver, John Anderson, in this particular class, because we got Scrappy off the line. Anderson comes out pretty well, though, and Roy Grimes is bringing up the rear. Ed?
These machines, I would assume, will weigh pretty much the same thing. Roy got a little late start, but Roy's carrying a little bit more in the cockpit, it looks like. Roy kind of looks like somebody shot a bear rug and made a Swamp Buggy racer out of it.
And he's going for the beach. He's going to try to get some traction up there in the shallower water. But you got to be careful up there, because there's a lot of rocks and old concrete and Lord knows what else. And you can break a front wheel if you get too close to
Well, no, but he just looks like he got by Anderson in Half Fast 3. And boy, look at old Scrappy come though.
Brock, how deep is the sippy hole that they just went through? And is it that much shallower up close to the beach?
Well, we're going to find out pretty quick, Ed, because Jay Rowe's got the battle pennants flying off there off the roll bar, and he's going to head for that sippy hole. Here comes Roy Grimes. I think the sippy hole is about 4 feet, isn't it, Steve?
I think so, Brock. It felt about like that when I hit bottom last year.
Well, it was well-deserved, and you were lucky. You know, you could still be in the hands of the sheriff had you not consented to fall into the old sippy hole, as is Jay Rowe doing right now. He gets through there pretty good, you know that? That old prow on Scrappy seems to work.
Well, here's a streamlined version.
Roy Grimes getting a little wet. You can see reason why he didn't wear his shirt out here today.
I tell you, I'd like to have the silicon concession. That's what they coat all the electrical components on these engines with, to try to keep the current still flowing underwater.
I wonder what John Anderson's reaching for there in that half-past 3. He looked like he was reaching for a handle. Maybe the pumps are not working too well. But boy, Scrappy, Jay Rowe, he's got to be happy.
And John Anderson's motor, a little tired from all that high RPM action, pumping some black smoke. Oop, was that a dead carp he was pitching out of there, Anderson?
Probably a crawfish.
But not so with Jay Rowe. He's got a good lead on Roy Grimes. So if he can hold that thing together, he can head up, move on to the next round, which make himself more than that $10 entry fee.
The slower buggies are trying to qualify for what they call the little feature, and then the winner from the little feature goes to what else but the big feature. Jay Rowe and Scrappy, Brock, still kind of hugging the bank, and you can see all those rocks and concrete alongside there. His passenger kind of keeping a sharp lookout for anything that might puncture a front tire.
Well, Jay's been around. He probably has bounced off a few rocks in the course of his Swamp Buggy racing career, but right now, Scrappy is just rolling along.
Brock, I noticed that all the racers have some semblance of a roll bar or a roll cage. Is there much danger in tipping over?
Well, actually, a couple of these things have tipped over during the Swamp Buggy races, Ed, and some guys have been saved from probably drowning more than injury because of these roll cages. So they sure do help.
The biggest danger, I think, would be in catching some strange tropical disease from this water.
You should know about it. John Anderson seems to have gotten things back together.
Yeah, he's Lester Beeser's got to be happy as his driver is back in the race. As Roy Grimes comes across through the sippy hole, comes out of there pretty good.
So John Anderson finishes third behind Roy Grimes and the Pac-Man. Well, a variety is indeed the spice of life. Stick with us, because you just never know what's coming next here at the Swamp.
Naples, Florida, the only place on earth where you see this particular kind of competition, the Swamp Buggy Classic. And these are the guys that are going to bring you all the thrills and splashes, as it were, the drivers. Now, they are a tensed-up group of guys. You can see it looks just like the beginning of the Indianapolis 500 field, because there's tension here everywhere. And you can see why, because believe it or not, there is about $25,000 at stake here, as we see the most popular class of all, perhaps the 4-cylinder 4x4 Jeep. Steve Evans come out here, and we know who's in this field. We've seen him before. There he is.
The biggest story in motorsports last year had to be the underpowered, underfinanced Reefer Madness team, who beat this buggy monstrosity to pick up the little feature victory. Here we see that now infamous pass by driver Tom Engel, who has just assured himself of a paycheck worth about twice the value of that Jeep. We asked Debbie, Lady Luck, if she was ready for today.
Yeah, we're ready. I am. I ain't driving. I'm just riding and paddling.
Well, there's 5 of them out here. That's a big lineup of Jeeps, Ed.
That's the biggest one we've seen. We've got Reefer Madness, last year's winner. One of the red Jeeps on the outside. Firefox, driven by Glenn Lang, is second from the inside in the blue Jeep. Flirting with Disaster, Jeff Boswell. In the inside Jeep, it's orange. Firecracker, Wayne Cochran driving, is the other red Jeep. And Bebop, Charles Kulik in the lavender Jeep.
Reefer Madness has got a bad start here, Brock. This could spell doom to their chance of repeating.
Firefox has jumped out to, looks like about a half an alligator length lead here.
Well, Debbie's paddling. You can see her there on the inside, and she's working. And look at this. Tom gets out of that sippy hole in pretty good shape. Looks like he's moved up to maybe second, maybe third place as he goes by that orange Jeep, flirting with Disaster, and heads for the lead.
You saw him just grab a gear there in the old 4-speed transmission. He starts in low, puts it in second, and stays there, except to the sippy hole. We'll bring it back down to low again.
Tom is pulling up on Glenn Lang in the Firefox now.
He sure is. Glenn Lang's teammate there is looking behind him because he sees Reefer Madness in his rearview mirror.
I just don't think he trusts Debbie is what it is.
Debbie is a serious factor. Boy, look at that. You can see that competitive nature she's got there. She's just leaning forward to that seat. Unfortunately, the water's not quite deep enough for her to paddle at this point, but she would if she could.
Firefox has got some problems, and Tom Engel and Flirting with Disaster both passed on the outside.
Sure thing. Firefox looks like he might have missed a gear or something, Ed, because he just fell right back, but now he's back in it again. So there's a good three-way battle for the lead, but Reefer Madness has got the front spot, Steve.
And, Brock, if there's such a thing as a groove in a Swamp Buggy race, Tom Engel has got, Flirting with Disaster is doing just that up on the bank. Flirting with Disaster, he's got it back down in the swamp. But I was about to say, Tom Engel, it's almost like he's got X-ray vision, can see the bottom of this swamp. He knows exactly where he'll get traction.
Well, he's sticking right close to the beach, as are the other guys. That's where the shallow water is. And, of course, these don't have as much ground clearance or beach clearance as the other ones do. And so they try to stay in the shallow water.
And after finding the right cog, Brock, it looks like Firefox and Flirting with Disaster are in a pretty tight race for second place.
Yeah, but my favorite's old Reefer Madness. My money is still on them. Tom Engel has got a pretty good lead out there. And if that old hoss will just stand up, doesn't break anything, he's going to win this heat, I think.
Glenn Lang in the Firefox has dropped further back, and now Bebop with Charles Kulik driving has taken over third place.
So here comes Tom into the frame, and Debbie keeping an eye on the competition back there. I'll tell you something, old Flirting with Disaster is running really strong.
But look at this. Engel is not going to give him enough room to pass on the inside. Engel is shutting the door on him.
Well, Flirting with Disaster, he may be heading for the beach, but he's got to cut inside. Now there's a little retaining wall there. He had a choice of going well up into the swamp or staying down in the water.
Engel caught a swell that's going to carry him, give him a little more of an advantage, but that orange Jeep has more power, Brock. If he can just get around Engel, and he's got to do it inside. It's too deep outside.
It looks like he does, but Tom has also got Debbie, and I believe Debbie's probably got a bag of rocks in there that she would start throwing if she has to.
Yes, sir.
Whatever it takes.
Well, Jeff Boswell is not giving up in that orange Jeep, Flirting with Disaster. Looks like he's got it hooked up on a draft. Now he's going by, slingshotting, just like at Daytona, Steve.
Yeah, but he's headed for some deep water. He may have to tuck back in behind him, Brock.
He sure does. Well, I tell you, Engel is doing a good job. He really is. We have fun with these Jeeps, but they're hard to drive, and Tom Engel is just about, as you say, as good as they get in this particular class.
Well, we maybe don't have the high speeds of the V8 buggies, but we got a lot of strategy going on and very close competition. Tom Engel and Lady Luck with a car length advantage as they head to the sippy hole for the last time. Is it going to be enough?
Well, look at Debbie. She's got the oars in the water, giving it that last little bit. Yes, they're a winner.
Reefer Madness. Could this be a harbinger of things to come? Is it even conceivable that Tom and Debbie could pull it off again, get into that big feature? But what a good fight Flirting with Disaster put up as they finished second. Jeff Boswell got to be proud of their efforts today. And headed over towards the trophy counter will be Reefer Madness. Yep, Debbie, she likes those trophies. Tom would like to get another fat paycheck like they did a year ago. So Tom and Debbie headed for the pits. Slow her down, Tom. You might run over our Brock Yates, who's down there with a report.
A Suspicion of Ignorance. Sounds like the title of a third-rate suspense novel I might try to write, but actually it's the name of the Swamp Buggy belonging to Terry Metzger here in Naples. Terry, I give up. Where did you come up with that one?
Well, I took the old buggy monstrosity and cut it up to build this one. And some of the other drivers was giving me a hard time about cutting up a winner like the old one. And I said, well, I've been arrested 3 or 4 times on suspicion of ignorance. So I decided that's what I named the buggy.
Well, you may not win with this one, but you're going to win first prize for weird names. But I'll tell you something, he's got some serious competition as far as wacko names are concerned.
The walking wounded, Ed. Remember this man, our pal, Steve Evans. And look at this. Lady Luck appears to be, I thought she was praying for a minute, but now she's clapping. She's probably just happy to get this thing over with because, of course, we can't start the big feature until Evans and Debbie paddle their way through the sippy hole.
He is a persevering sort.
He is. I'm kind of proud of him. I really am.
Is this the last time around, hopefully?
I don't know. Yes, I think it is. Lady Luck.
Buck's clapping, so she's got to be pleased that it's over with. And there goes Steve Evans, our answer to the creature from the Black Lagoon, taking a proud last place.
Brock, Steve had problems, but we hear that Danny Daniels has a very serious problem in the pits.
Yeah, he sure does. Not only has he broken a header pipe on his engine, but now it won't start. So the pressure's on for Danny Daniels as he grinds on the starter. The rest of the field has moved out to the starting line. Fortunately, he's got a little bit of a break because, of course, the race has been delayed by you-know-who and Reefer Madness. But now the course is finally clear. And wait a minute, speak of the devil, I recognize those size 14s.
Just still can't get started, Brock.
He sure can't add it, but he's got some formidable opposition out on the starting line. The outlaw, Lonnie Chesser, a former winner. Next to him, another former winner, Shag Nasty, the four-wheel drive vehicle of David Sims, and this time, no passenger. David usually carries a passenger in the preliminaries, but now that we're down for all the money, he's left his pals behind. Sims comes to the line. Next to him, All Rat, Roger Williams, another beautiful vehicle. Very much a state-of-the-art machine. Big V8 way at the back. Roger Williams, a solid driver. Those three head toward the line as risky business tries to get that vehicle started back in the pits. You almost wonder, Ed, whether he wants to get it started because, boy, if he wins this one against this kind of competition, it's going to be a miracle.
I'm back, guys, doing my imitation of a drowned rat.
Hey, welcome. We were rooting for you all the way.
Pulling for you all the way, partner. Steve, when you were sloshing around in the pits, did you see how Danny Daniels was doing?
Well, I don't have any good news, Ed. They're on about their third set of jumper cables, and so far, no sign of life from that engine at all. Until right now, Danny has got it fired up. But can he get it to the line in time? Is the sheriff going to wait for him before the start?
Well, that's the question. Poor old Danny Daniels, he's had his share of problems. After winning the little feature, nothing works.
It must be, Brock. Roger Williams has pulled out to make room for Danny on the starting line.
Sure has, so he's got himself a shot at it. And that's good news because we want to see all four of these finalists get a good run, and hopefully we'll see a big finish. We've had a lot of DNFs this afternoon, so maybe all four of these guys are going to head for the finish line together. There's David Sims, a solid runner, Steve.
And sitting on what you might call the pole position is Lonnie Chesser in the outlaw, nodding in agreement to the starter, and they are off. Lonnie Chesser takes that inside line beautifully. David Sims going to the outside where he can see Brock.
He sure is, because the weight that Chesser's putting up is going to make it almost impossible to follow him very closely. We've got Roger Williams that's fallen way back, and Chesser right out front, but look at Shag Nasty. He's right up on Chesser's rear end.
And that's exactly where he's got to stay. He's got to apply pressure to Lonnie Chesser. Chesser has more horsepower, his buggy a little sleeker through the water, but that four-wheel drive could prove to be an advantage for David Sims if he can just keep pressuring Chesser into making a mistake or maybe breaking something.
Well, don't forget too, Steve, Chesser already told us he's got front-end problems. So if that thing starts to behave badly and he's headed toward that spot on the course where he almost bounced it off the wall the last time, and this could be Sims' chance. In fact, look at this. David Sims has got the inside line.
And we have got a battle of raw horsepower side by side. Lonnie Chesser with a bit of an advantage. On the inside comes David Sims. David Sims is by him. David Sims now puts Lonnie Chesser in the wake of his four-wheel drive machine.
He sure did, Steve. In fact, Lonnie has moved way to the outside as Sims just powers that four-wheel drive Shag Nasty toward the finish line. If he can bounce it across the sippy hole,
look at Chesser. Look at Chesser. Almost upside down goes Lonnie Chesser. Oh, my, that got his attention. Lonnie Chesser just refused to give up and almost took a tumble because of that fearless approach to the last 100 yards.
He sure did. It looks as if a tie rod or something broke, and the steering just went completely to pieces as he was trying to overtake David Sims.
Roger Williams crosses the finish line, picking up third spot. And let's take a look at the big feature, the final race of the day once again. Lonnie Chesser just got a wonderful start. He powered out into a lead, and I think most of the fans here, loyal Chesser fans, figured it was all over but the shouting. They were getting ready for a victory celebration at the Chesser house, but that was not to be.
It sure wasn't, because David Sims just squeezed onto the inside. It may be that Lonnie was experiencing some steering problems even at this point, because he would probably have tried to keep that inside line and not let David squeeze underneath him. But in fact, David did it. That four-wheel drive paid off.
as he powers toward the finish line.
In this spectacular head-on shot, you see David Sims, the ultimate winner on the left, but watch the right-hand side of your screen. Here comes Lonnie Chesser with the steering apparently disintegrating. Chesser, right now, all he can think about is trying to get Sims at the sippy hole. And the machine goes completely airborne and almost flips over. Lonnie Chesser proving that he is a man's man in this kind of competition. Oh, look at this truck, so close.
As the winner, David Sims goes back to congratulate Lonnie Chesser in one of the most thrilling finishes ever here at the Swamp.
I don't know what we could do for an encore except to carry on a tradition here at Naples, Florida.
That's right, Ed. The Swamp Buggy Classic always ends with the dunking of the queen, this year Kim Ellison. And David Sims, who is now the king of the swamp, gets a chance to pitch Kimberly in. And speaking of getting wet, I'm sure Brock is a knowledgeable racecaster. You noticed right off that the front-wheel drive wasn't even working on Reefer Madness, or, you know, it would have been a whole different story out there for me.
No, I thought it was working perfectly.
As a matter of fact, when he came out of the last sippy hole across the finish line, the front wheels were throwing off quite a bit of water.
Yeah,
he was digging.
Nice try, Evans.
Let me tell you, all kidding aside, I would like to thank Tom and Debbie for really a good time. It was a thrill for me just to get around the course one time in old Reefer Madness. I want to thank them. They were really, really good friends to us today. And right now, Kimmy Ellison has got to be wondering whether she might have been better off second place in the Swamp Buggy Week competition.
Absolutely. Boy, Miss America never ended up like this.
Now, David Sims is a true Southern gentleman. He's supposed to just pitch her off in there, isn't he?
That's right. In fact, last year, we saw the Queen unceremoniously thrown up the bow of, well, Sims, he's keeping up with the rest of them.
The crowd gave Kimberly the thumbs down sign. From Naples, Florida, from the Swamp Buggy Classic, for Brock Yates and Steve Evans, I'm Ed Bruce. Have a good day.
The executive producer of Super Sports America is Harvey M. Pallett. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Super Sports America. Sports action at its finest. Join us next week for another edition of Super Sports America, capturing the power, color, and action of uniquely American sports and the skill and the courage of the competitors. Super Sports America is a presentation of Diamond P Sports and is distributed by Gaylord Syndicom.